Gentlemen, I would like to thank you for coming, and I would like to welcome Mr. Hussain Ahmed Abdel, one of the initiative person is always fighting to get the higher education. Since I know him in 2002, he's trying to enter in safety, and now he is graduated in master from UK. And I wish you all the best with the topics operational reliability in oil and gas. Please welcome.
Shukran, Ahmed. Thank you very much. Before I start the presentation, I would like to make something clear for everybody. I'm not talking about how to operate safely in oil and gas, and I'm not giving you guidelines or control measures. This is not what I'm doing. Because what I thought when trying to do this presentation is that people who are not experienced in oil and gas, they might find the content too technical for them, so they will not give the benefit. And those who are already experienced in oil and gas, it will be something which does not add to their knowledge base. So what I thought is we will talk about case studies, two major accidents or disasters in oil and gas. We will see the failures, which is related to the operational reliability for each one, and we will discuss what went wrong and how we can prevent things like this in the future. So I'll start by discussing Buncefield Teapot explosion or fire. Anybody know about the reason for this major fire which happened in the UK? Terry, do you have an idea about this? Nothing? You are from there? Or?
I'm fully, but
You left?
I left already.
Okay. So what happened with this? There was a major fire which caused about 1 billion worth of damage, and it injured 43 people. Fortunately, nobody died, but almost 2,000 were evacuated from the vicinity of the accident, and considered the largest fire in peacetime in UK, that is after World War II. So this is just a brief overview of what happened. This is almost 20 tanks were engulfed or damaged, destroyed, beyond repair, of course, after the fire. This is another photo of the fire, and this is the aftershock or the damage which caused the major fire, which was huge. So, just to give you a background about the location, it's an oil storage facility where they have in what they call the tank farm. So this is similar. It's located in Hempstead in Hertfordshire in England. There are about 20 tanks in that facility. The terminal is owned by Total and Mexico. You should have an eagle eye to read this, but I can tell you, this is the map of the facility. You can see it is colored differently. You have orange here, blue, slightly pinkish. There are 3 operators responsible for this site. Namely, the Hertfordshire Oil Storage Limited, and we have BP, and a company called British Pipeline Agency. So 3 operators operating this facility. So let's dissect this accident now. What went wrong? Tank 912, which is this one. It's a part of a 3 tanks configuration. This is the one row here. So it was filled with gasoline, unleaded petrol from a nearby refinery. By midnight, everything was okay. Then at approximately 3 a.m., the tank gauge malfunctioned, so stopped reading, although the tank was being filled with gasoline. So just to give you an idea, this is one of the tank gauges. Never mind the name, Rosemont is just a brand name because this is taken from a product catalog. This is a radar type. There are many types of tank gauges. You will have the floater type, the servo gauge. This is a radar type, so more advanced type. But this is just for clarification or explanation. This is not the one which is being used here. this is called the high level alarm, the independent level alarm. So this is in a different circuit which is connected to the control panel in the control room. So the operator, he will have different data from the tank gauge and one from the independent high level alarm. The purpose of this, if this malfunctions somehow, there is a contingency that this will detect the contents of the tank approaching the high or alarming level, and it will trigger an alarm for the operator to take an action. So there is evidence that this switch also malfunctioned. There should have been an alarm which triggers because of the malfunction of this alarm, but it never happened. So the contents were going through the tank. There was no, let's say, alarm. So the control operator did not have any indication of anything going wrong. So the contents of the tank spilled over. It went to the boundary of the tank, and started flowing. So what you have, a gasoline flowing from the tank, you will have a vapor cloud. So this vapor cloud expanded, went beyond the bond wall. The tank 912 was having a capacity of 6 million liters alone. So somebody saw in the CCTV that there was a vapor cloud at this time. Remember, this was happening from 3 a.m. There was no indication that there is any more gasoline being inserted into the tank, although it was. So at 6:01, somebody informed the supervisor at the control panel, and he pushed the alarm button. The alarm button triggered the fire pump, which was close to the vapor cloud. At the same time, the explosion happened. So it engulfed the whole tank area. So there is evidence that this crucial item has failed. So what is the key issue with this, let's say, switch failure? If you can share your idea. What do you think was what was the reason for this failure?
Services.
Yeah, I said key issue, so I'm giving you a hint for it.
Not inspected regularly.
No, there was something missing. A key item was missing.
Lotto.
But no, I said key already.
No.
So this is the high level switch. This was what was in the tank itself. Just to give you a brief about how this works. You have a floating lid which is hanging by a weight here, which is connected to this. There's a magnet here. Once the liquid level pushes the lid from the bottom, so the spring will take the magnet up to the reed switch, and it will trigger the alarm. So what was crucial here was this lever was supposed to be in a horizontal position. Otherwise, it will give an indication or a function which is not required. So this padlock was very important. So this is what I explained already. So the check lever has three let's say, positions. In the upper position, they remove the padlock. In the upper position, it will act as the high level alarm. So you can test it, bring it back to the horizontal position, and then put the padlock again. In the opposite side, when you make the lever in the, let's say, the lower position, this will act as a low level switch. So it will have three separate functions. So what was the issue here? They believe that when the padlock was missing, naturally the lever was able to come down. That means it will give, or it will act as a low level switch. In this case, in the tank 912, this was not the design for this switch. It was not to act as a low level switch. It was to act as a high level switch. but because of the missing padlock, this switch did not work properly. So, naturally, by gravitational forces, if you don't have something to secure this in place, it will be lowered. Once it is lowered, it is disabled, so it will not function. So, what was the mistake now? Let's see. What was the part of the installers or manufacturers? The independent high-level switch was supplied or manufactured by Dell Engineering. It was installed by a motherware system. But there was no information about what is the importance of having this pattern. There was no proper communication. So what do you think now, since now this is the, let's say, the fault of the installers and also part of the manufacturer, they did not communicate this to the installers, and therefore it was installed but not in a proper manner. Do you think the operators have responsibility over this, or they share some of the responsibility? Just to have an
Operator should always be testing and commissioning.
Why? Why?
Yeah, because you would be the operator and you would check before you would take over.
Okay.
Otherwise, I hand over something and if he's not checking, he signs off. Okay, then
How you can do that?
testing and commissioning.
Okay, very good. You answered perfectly. Thank you very much. So they do have responsibility. So in the end, this is what caused the disaster. The three companies, total was fined £2,600,000. The other operator, Hartford Oil Storage, 1 million and a half almost, and the British Pipeline was 300,000. And they were fined, let's say, court cost of about 4 million. So altogether it was 8 million pounds. You can see that most of the fine was on the operators, the three companies, total, the owner total, which having the biggest share, 60% of the site. Then the two operators, the Hartford Oil Storage Facility and British Pipeline Facility. But you can see the fine for the installers or the manufacturer was only 1,000. So the responsibility lies on those who are responsible for this.
Question, you said it's 3 tanks were fired, 30 tanks were fired.
Actually, one tank which was overfilled and caused the fire, the initial fire, but the fire engulfed 20 tanks.
Yeah.
But that tank was belonging to one of the companies. If I can go back a second. Yeah, let's see. So tank 912, the cars are not very clear. It is belonging to Hertfordshire Oil Company, or it was under their responsibility.
But they don't have like fire compartments like we have in hospitals and these things, so in case of fire.
I can say the secondary containment and tertiary containment failed, because as this is considered as a high hazard facility, which comes under COMA, which is called control of major or hazardous accidents. The issue is they have to operate with a license from UK regulators, and they should have, let's say, many controls in place to make sure that this never happens. But unfortunately, it happened because of many layers of failures. So this is the Barnesfield depot. Do you have any question about it? Yes.
Do you think that this big tank, they depend only in one barrier?
No, there are more. Yeah.
There are more?
Yes, because we said that this. Let's go back. We said the tank gauge flatline. That means did not read properly. The tank was being filled with gasoline, but the tank got stuck somehow. That means this important control failed because without it reaching a high level, it will not trigger an alarm. So this is the first failure. But this is not something new. What happened here with this one, since they commissioned it in, let's say, in August, the accident happened on 11 December, it was on Saturday, on Sunday. Since they commissioned the tank on August until December, this gauge malfunctioned 14 times. And every time they call the manufacturer again, sometimes they do, the operators, they do some kind of operation which brings the gauge back to operation somehow. Or sometimes they call the installers back again to come and check what is the issue. So we can say that reliability of this. Yeah.
That's mean two barrier fail.
Yes. But what about the bond? The bond which should have contained the contents. There was no alarm there, actually. So it overfilled already. Nobody knows that there was this window.
How about the CCTV cameras?
What they saw in the camera was too late. Remember, this happened started on Saturday, and the fire happened on Sunday. At that time, you know that weekend in the UK, unfortunately, most of the accidents happened in this manner. For example, if you remember Flexopro happened on a weekend as well. Fortunately, because not many people are there. But this fire happened on Sunday, so not many people were there. Maybe a lone control operator sitting in the control room, watching or observing the tanks levels and all that. So he completely was oblivious about what is happening. So this is in short about Bonds field. What I have for you next is a video concerning the Deepwater Horizon. I'm not going to talk too much about Deepwater Horizon. The video says a lot of things which I want to emphasize on. And the time, 1 year after the accident, I did not have the information which is contained in this video. If you've seen it before, it's good, but if you're not, then this will shed more light on what happened. So, that's it. So, 2010, an explosion happened on Deepwater Horizon which killed 11 people and caused one of the biggest oil spills in US history. So this is what happened. You can see the pollution or the oil spill. It was too much. So it was owned by Transocean, built in South Korea by Hyundai Heavy Industries. The rig was commissioned by R&D, which is part of Transocean. It was leased to BP, British Petroleum. And they were supposed to take this from Deepwater Horizon to another site until they complete their lease period. But the accident happened, unfortunately, before they do that. And this is the depth, about 5,000 feet below sea level. Let's see the video. We'll have a discussion.
April 20th, 2010. 11 workers died and 17 were seriously injured by an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon, an offshore drilling rig located approximately 50 miles off the coast of Louisiana. The rig burned for 2 days, eventually sinking and triggering the largest oil spill in U.S. history, as oil and gas spewed up from the sea floor. The Deepwater Horizon had been drilling an oil well in 5,000 feet of water in an area of the Gulf of Mexico known as the Macondo Prospect. In 2010, the CSB launched an investigation to examine the technical, organizational, and regulatory factors that contributed to the accident. During the investigation, the CSB made new findings about why a key piece of safety equipment, the Deepwater Horizon's blowout preventer, failed to seal the well during the emergency. These new findings help explain why the accident was so devastating, and the CSB cautioned that other blowout preventers currently in use could fail in similar ways. Drilling an offshore well involves creating a pathway between the drilling rig and oil and gas reservoirs trapped beneath the sea floor. A deep hole, or well bore, is drilled through layers of subsea rock and sediment. These rocky layers can contain trapped water, crude oil, and natural gas under pressure. An unplanned flow of these well fluids into the wellbore, known in the industry as a kick, can be dangerous. Without careful management, a kick can lead to a blowout, the uncontrolled release of flammable oil and gas from the well. A blowout can be catastrophic, since oil and gas reaching the drilling rig can quickly find an ignition source, leading to a fire or explosion, endangering the lives of the drilling crew. To prevent kicks, drillers pump a dense slurry called drilling mud into the well, creating a barrier between the undersea oil and gas and the piping that leads to the rig. If this mud barrier fails or is somehow removed, the safety of the drilling crew depends on a critical piece of equipment located on the sea floor called the blowout preventer, or BOP. The BOP is a complex electrically and hydraulically powered device that is essential for controlling the well and, in an emergency situation, preventing a disaster on the platform high above on the sea surface. The BOP is connected to the rig by a large diameter pipe called a riser. If a kick occurs, the blowout preventer is designed to prevent flammable oil and gas from traveling up the riser to the drilling rig. This is done by sealing the area around the drill pipe, known as the annular space. To do this, the crew can manually close pipe rams and donut-shaped rubber devices known as annular preventers. If those devices should fail to work, the last resort is a pair of sharp metal blades which form a blind shear ram designed to cut the drill pipe and seal the well. The blind shear ram can be activated manually or by automated emergency systems. At approximately 8:45 p.m. on April 20th, 2010, a kick occurred in the Macondo well. Oil and gas entered the wellbore undetected, eventually passing above the blowout preventer and traveling quickly up the riser toward the deepwater horizon and the 126 people on board. Just after 9:40 p.m., drilling mud, forced upwards by the rising oil and gas, suddenly blew out onto the rig. Crew members responded by closing the upper annular preventer in the BOP. However, this did not seal the well as intended, and flammable oil and gas continued to flow into the riser toward the rig. Next, the crew closed a pipe ram. This successfully closed the annular space and sealed the well, but tragically this proved to be only a temporary fix. Oil and gas that were already above the pipe ram continued to flow inexorably toward the deepwater horizon. At approximately 9:49 p.m., the flammable hydrocarbons found an ignition source, and the first explosions shook the deepwater horizon. As the oil and gas escaped the riser onto the rig, the pressure dropped in the annular space above the pipe ram. But at the same time, the pressure in the drill pipe climbed substantially. The drill pipe was closed at the top, but oil and gas continued to flow in from the reservoir below. After extensive analysis, the CSB concluded that this large difference in pressure likely caused the drill pipe to buckle, essentially bending the pipe off-center inside the blowout preventer. The buckling pushed sections of the drill pipe outside of the reach of the blind shear ram blades. This would eventually prove to be catastrophic. With the drill pipe buckled, the explosion and subsequent loss of electrical and hydraulic power from the rig likely activated an automated system on the blowout preventer known as the AMF dead man, which closes the blind shear ram and cuts the drill pipe. This emergency system is designed to activate when electric power, hydraulic pressure, and communications from the rig have been lost. The AMF dead man system was operated by two redundant control systems on the BOP, known as the yellow pod and the blue pod. The redundancy is supposed to increase the reliability of the system in an emergency situation. The yellow and blue pods worked independently of each other and were comprised of identical enclosed computer systems and sets of solenoid valves. When activated, The solenoid valves controlled important BOP functions, such as closing the blind shear ram. If electrical power from the rig was lost, as happened on April 20th, 2010, both the yellow and blue control pods contained backup 27-volt and 9-volt batteries to power emergency functions. The 9-volt batteries powered computers that would activate the solenoid valves, which were powered by the 27-volt batteries. However, evidence indicates the blue pod had been miswired at some time before the BOP was lowered onto the seafloor. This caused the pod's 27-volt battery to drain and made it impossible to operate the solenoid valve for the blind shear ram on the night of the accident. And within the redundant yellow pod, the solenoid for the blind shear ram had been miswired. The solenoid valves were controlled by 2 coils of electrical wire. These 2 coils were designed to work in concert, generating a magnetic field strong enough to operate the valve. But within the miswired solenoid valve, the 2 coils actually opposed each other, leaving the valve paralyzed. Only a third unplanned failure allowed the yellow pod to operate. On the night of the accident, one of the 9-volt batteries that powered the solenoid valve's computer had failed. As a result, the affected computer system could not initiate the command to energize the miswired coil. Had both coils of the miswired solenoid valve been energized, the 2 coils would have generated opposing forces on the valve. The solenoid valve would have remained closed, and the blind shear ram would never have been closed. However, the failed battery rendered one coil inoperable, and most likely allowed the other coil to open the solenoid valve by itself. This in turn initiated closure of the blind shear ram. This should have cut the drill pipe and sealed the well, greatly reducing the impact of the accident. But because the drill pipe was buckled and off-center inside the blowout preventer, it was trapped and only partially cut. With the failure of this last-ditch measure, there was nothing left to stop the massive oil spill and the destruction of the rig. During its investigation, the CSB identified a mechanism that likely caused the drill pipe to be buckled around the time of the explosion. This mechanism is called effective compression. Although effective compression had previously been noted as a hazard in other drilling operations, it had never been identified as a problem affecting drill pipe during well operations. Effective compression occurs because although pipe may appear to be perfectly straight, in fact it has minute bends and irregularities, invisible to the naked eye. Along these bends, the side of the pipe that is curved outward is slightly longer and has more surface area than the other side. When there is a large difference in pressure between the inside and outside of the pipe, as happened on April 20th, 2010, the longer side of the pipe experiences a larger bending force. Eventually, this force can become great enough to buckle even heavy pipe. This is an important finding, CSB investigators said, because the same conditions of differential pressure could occur at other drilling rigs, even if a crew successfully shuts in a well. The CSB warned this could make existing blowout preventer designs less effective in emergency situations. In the case of the Deepwater Horizon accident, the buckled drill pipe prevented the blind shear ram from sealing the well. Oil and gas from the well flowed out of the buckled drill pipe and into the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days. A reported 5 million barrels of oil eventually spilled, causing one of the worst environmental disasters in United States history.
Took them a long time for that. So as what was said in the video, continuing for about 87 days until they managed to seal it all completely. More than 200 million gallons of oil was already spilled on the seabed. So initially the US has fined the BP and they settled for, this is the initial amount, 80 billion, but recently it reached up to 65 billion. That is including the compensations for those who were affected by the spills on the coastline, Mississippi, Alabama, and all of the cleanup costs. So it was a huge cost on British Petroleum. If they were not big enough, or let's say a big company, they would have been gone bankrupt by now. So, some questions. Do you think now, is there a linear relation between the two accidents? What was the common things? Yeah, we had a redundancy. We had a lot of systems, but a lot of systems failed, which led to the disaster. So does it mean that having many systems will cause disasters? What do you think?
Fail to test this systems.
Yes, you are correct.
Same the POP, maybe it is not tested as the same the batteries. Okay, responsible to operate.
Yes. Yes. Good.
The part is failed.
Yes, so we have many systems. It is important actually. You have complex industries like oil and gas. You have the nuclear industry, aviation. All of these complex industries, you have to have many systems. You cannot have one system. So you have a lot of redundancies. How you manage these systems is what makes you simple.
Some of the companies they are bringing many systems in the company, but practically it's not working.
Yes.
So it has to be logic. So it will be applicable to your company. Sometimes if you are oil and gas, a small company is different than a large company. So if you bring something large company system to the small organization, it might not be suited for that company. So that company has to generate something that suits them. Otherwise, like this deep water, which incident, I've seen a film, same film, I've seen it, they generated. So in that film, lots of systems are not working, lack of maintenance. So lots of issues was there.
Yes. So does it mean that we have to simplify our management system? No, it doesn't have to be in that. So we have seen that the common elements here is the multiple systems failing, which was critical for operations, unfortunately. And what we can do more, and I can give you one example. For the blow-up preventer, you touched on a good subject here. Now, a critical or let's say system like the blow-up preventer, this will prevent oil from gushing to the seafloor. If you have such critical system, wouldn't you think that testing this system should have been done in a more safe environment? For example, in a laboratory system, where they can pump water or similar kind of liquid, where they can test it to see whether it will fail or whether it will be working properly before.
Usually too much cost.
No, I wouldn't say too much cost. If you can take this.
Less expensive than 65 billion.
Yes. But if you put it, let's say, if you build a room, you spend millions for it, just to test it for a while. Wouldn't that maybe be practical, or let's say, will save the company a bit money? Could be, but this was not good.
As per technical road inspection, these POP need to be tested before each other.
Yeah, but you saw that there are some elements which was, actually what was surprising for me, the wirings.
Yeah.
The wirings of the system itself was got wrong. They made it in a wrong way, which is, for a company as big as BP, it was really astonishing to miswire the system.
Sometimes we need to look the effectiveness of the system what we have.
Yes.
For example, we bought an expensive system, but what is the effectiveness of that system?
And being relaxed too much is one of the key issues. You can't be relaxed in a high hazard environment such as oil and gas. If You have to always keep checking yourself. Are we safe? Are we okay? So that's it. If anybody have a question, I'm here for you, although I'm not expert in oil and gas.
The question for me always is where they have the spark in this surrounding. Because if you're working with oil, there should be no possibility of having a
Yes,
spark.
they try to
Like
prevent
this.
spark.
Yeah.
So do you mean in a particular situation or
Yeah,
setting?
for
Or?
ignition. I mean, oil itself
Yeah.
it will not be kind of harmful to
Yeah, but
flow,
in these two accidents, the first one, the Bonds field, it was already overfilled the control area. So
Yeah.
that's where the ignition happened. The second one,
Yeah, but there should be
Yeah.
a short circuit or something like this to spark the oil, because even overflowing means it's an
Yeah.
overflow, but as long as there's no fire or no spark,
In that area, there is a lot of motors, there is a lot
Yeah.
of pumps that can generate the heat. So anytime you have a fuel, oxygen, heat will ignite directly.
for the Bonds field, the vapor cloud was already out of the bomb. It reached to the point where a water pump was operating. When they triggered the alarm, this was already in a safe area where there shouldn't be any vapor cloud. The problem with what they call deflagration, when you have a vapor cloud, the fire will start somewhere and it will just cascade to the full of fire until it reaches the source. So this is what happened.
Also, the first incident, as you said, there is a boundary to
Yeah.
collect all the contents of the tanks.
Yes.
When it becomes over, that means so the tank is not designed, or the space or design
Yeah.
or around the tank is not enough.
Yeah. There was no alarm.
No alarm, no,
No alarm.
Even
Say
engineering,
the one being
engineering wise,
overfilled.
engineering wise is not covering the tanks because the boundaries should cover the tank's contents.
Another question?
yes.
Just one question regarding the accommodation.
Okay.
The buildings.
I'm not giving you easy answers here.
Yeah.
All questions.
Yes, no, that's what I'm waiting for.
You-
There is no hazard study for the deep water.
This is what I said in the beginning of the presentation. I'm not giving you solution because what we have in oil and gas, we have a lot of systems which Yasser will know about. We have hazard studies, we have safety integrity levels, which governs what reliable the equipment we use. You know,
MOCs on each
Yeah.
change,
Government
not
to war.
only management.
government to war. There's so many things, so many things. But I did not list them here because I don't want to give you the easy things. Find it for yourself. This is done in a big, let's say, more extensive course. You know, the kind of controls you have for industry like oil and gas. and such. So I've given you the problem, no solutions. You have to find your answers.
And they changed the rules and regulation after this in UK and in US, or
So far, I'm not sure. The regulation stays the same, but in this case, they try to find more reliable solutions. For example, BP. Of course, they did a lot of checks after what happened with the law to prevent it, to make sure this does not happen in the future. But you never know, and such a hazardous industry. You know. And if you go back to 2005. I don't want to blame BP too much, but there was a major accident already happened in 2005, just before the Bonds field, which is the BP Texas. It happened in May 2005, big explosion, which damaged the refinery, many people died. That means what? This gives you some indication that although it's a big company, but still there are certain things. That accident which happened in BP Texas, it was also related to operation and reliability. They were going beyond the limits of the operations.
As you said, that's overconfidence or focusing, giving a value
Yeah.
on
If you
production more than safety.
if you go back to the Baker report, he was the vice president, I think, of the US that time, because BP was operating in US, and he said something normalizing what you call unsafe behavior. You do something wrong, but you just cover it up and this you carry on. So that was one of the issues.
Any more
Thank you
question?
very
Give
much.
him headache. Give him more question.
Yes. As I said, no answers.
And Abu Ali?
Hussain. After this I'd like to thank Mr. Hussain for a great presentation and giving two cases and different troubleshooting and how we think about solution.
Yeah.
These cases is like our keys to go and watch our system in the companies. So don't realize that, oh, it happened there, will not happen to us. So that may cause another accident. Thank you, Mr. Hussain, for that. I start to speak.